We are having a Tuesday. Welcome to it. Give me a hot second here for me to make sure my signal's coming through clearly here. Clearly here. Sounds good. Okay, cool. I'm going to just take a hot moment here to punch signal on Twitter and across the Discord channels that I like. If you guys hang out with me on online in Discord, you already know where I am haunting at, which is DMsGuild Creator Circle, DTRPG, Indestructible Boys, Designosphere, Trent Monks, Discord channel in general, Dungeoneers Pack, Classes and Constructs, Zipperon, Cleric Corner. Riker's always doing cool stuff there. Rich Berry has got really good flavor design. Fry Minis is of course always got the scoops on new stuff, and the flagship Dungeons and Dragons 5e. So that's fine for Discord. That's fine for the Twitter. If you check down in the description below, there's a link to the Patreon that will give you free access. You don't have to be a patron, but it's just listed there that you can gander at the mechanics that we have made here, the in-combat, mass combat, and guild playtest content, which is available free for y'all to view while it's in playtesting, soon to transition out of it. Down just the other day, down on page 93 of the content, I included the case study for Baldur's Gate. I've been doing a lot of playtesting and design work around infernal machines, using them in Descent into Avernus once you hit level 5+. But prior to there, the first tier of that entire campaign is spent with your characters mucking around inside Baldur's Gate. So I figured let's spend some time on Descent into Avernus looking at Baldur's Gate specifically. Here's what they provide for us. So if you check out the link to the In Command Mass Combat and Guild playtest content, let's see, on page 56, you can see where it's talking about how to structure kingdoms and guilds, and has comments on specialist NPCs that are able to perform ability checks beyond what their CR ability stat would normally allow them because of their expertise in their chosen industry. And all of these industries are derived from Balduran's Guide to Kingdom Building, and if you don't have it, it's a great piece. That entire book, Adam Hancock is the editor for the In Command project, so his entire book was about a deep dive into looking at how to build a settlement into a city, which introduced the 6 attributes of a city, like health and commerce and military strength and religious affiliation, loyalty, or patriotism, as well as lore, which is like general information or the ability to attain information in that society. And so he did a lot of research on the different locations, notable locations, and what type of establishments they are inside Balduran's and inside Baldur's Gate already. And this whole book is framed from the perspective of Balduran, who was the original founder of Baldur's Gate, setting up along the side of a river where this inlet is at, which over century or so built into this community. And then in the Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, it dives further into detail, with it expanding up to a current population of 125,000 people inside of it. So it's a great opportunity for us to do a deeper dive into how exactly do we build kingdoms, guilds, communities as sources, as resource centers and plot generators. So that's the intent of this. Players are able to take command as a downtime activity of entire guilds or entire communities and even kingdoms, and operating as just some simple, or it's as light or as deep as you really want to get. It's the mechanics here allow for an entire 4X game inside of your D&D campaign if your players like playing Civ 6 or like Lucky Town and stuff like that. Or it can just be DM facing, so that the DM knows what kind of resources are available inside of a community on the fly, or any gradient in between that you want to go with. So using the content in the playtest in the playtest document that's currently available in the link below, as well as the case study which just got loaded into it as well. Let's look at Baldur's Gate. So that's enough of a forward, right? So I'm going to hit the timer for 20 minutes for us to get into it. What we're looking at here, right off the cuff, is let's start off by peeling out the case study separately from the actual kingdom mechanics, so that we can look at things a little more clearly, and then have Baldur's Gate here in the Descent into Avernus adventure content here on D&D Beyond. Here's the basics that they give you. A population of 125,000. The government is a plutocracy helmed by the Council of Four and Parliament of Peers. The defense is the Flaming Fist mercenaries and the Watch. Commerce is primarily dyes, fish, imports from mercenaries, nautical supplies. Organizations of relevance are the guild, neighborhood crews, and trade guilds. The guild is the Thieves Guild that's active in the community. And then the religions are Gon, Tamara, Emberly. Any law-abiding faiths have representation in shrines, and then there's the unofficial cult of the Dead Three, which is I forget the name of them, like Cyric and other, Baal, I think, and whatever. Anyway, the major religions have their own churches. And then the actual content provides a lot more detail about, like, Candlekeep is to the south, and then El Terrell is to the north. El Terrell is the actual city that disappears in Descent into Avernus that you go to hell to rescue. It doesn't actually have anything to do with Baldur's Gate at all, except for a plot hook. So, I'll leave my comments about how happy I am about how Wizards designs content, but the intent here is that the characters end up going from Baldur's Gate to where El Terrell was, so that they can investigate it, realize that there's a gap, and then get plane jumped into hell to go after El Terrell. So, looking at this from a pure geopolitical perspective, this is a coast town. Chult to the south provides a lot of exotic materials. These Waterdeep to the north is a massive commerce hub for the entire Sword Coast. But then further inland is El Terrell, and El Terrell is in a nice pocket of farmland, and just it's a heavy religion themed city with a lot of just good fundamental basics to form a stable society around, which means a lot of farmland. So obviously you got forests that aren't unrealistically far away for them to be able to harvest resources from. And all this is about, according to this map down here, 100 miles is about 300 miles from El Terrell to Baldur's Gate, which is about 4 or 5 days upstream and 2 days downstream from El Terrell. So it's real easy to get supplies from El Terrell to Baldur's Gate, which can then be traded with the sword, the Sea of Sword trade guilds that work the resources up and down. So that's the basic layout. Baldur's Gate. Let's look at how the Baldur's Guide to Kingdom Building takes this. It has a castle as its main military strong point, and it's got a few military buildings, a barrack for the watch, city walls to define us from them. It's got a keep on the along the water line here to have a small naval presence, as well as a lighthouse for visibility, and then the mercenary compound, Worm's Rock, to be the home for the Flaming Fist. And then you got commerce buildings like banks and bazaar, and general stores, inns, port, roads, stockyard, warehouse. I mean, you can read this stuff as easily as I can. In Baldur's Guide, each one of these type of structures provides specific benefits, like say, gaining advantage on making skill checks involved with finding the type of materials you need for crafting an item in like while you're in the bazaar, for instance, or the bank, making it easy for you to be able to exchange treasure that you find on adventures into gemstones or higher denomination coins, so that you aren't burdened with copper and silver, as it were. Or you can break down that platinum piece into silver and copper so that you can purchase common wares with it more easily. There's a total of 65 structures that are listed here, and a number of them are in parentheses, such as the bazaar, called the Wide. It's a unique property. General stores such as Candlekeep Chandlery versus Danthelian's Crossing. These are all specific the word I'm looking for is merchants or organizations unto themselves. Like, for instance, Museum the Hall of Wonders is the name of the museum, but since it stands out as its own thing, it could realistically be built into its own guild, which has its own goals and resources inside of the community that can offer plot hooks for characters on behalf of the museum to go, say, fetch exotic stuff. Hey, we would really like to finish out our Cholt dinosaur collection. Can you go get us a T-Rex skull? So, there you go. That's like a quest. Go fetch a T-Rex. There you go. Most notably, the Thieves Guild. The Guild is a Thieves Guild. If you were using Twin Dragon's Thieves Guild product, which is currently platinum on DMsGuild, it could give you a bunch of like super specific information about like how to fence items, how likely is it for you to find a specialized magic item that you need inside of a community to perform a specific type of heist, or to MacGuffins for adventures and stuff like that. That has a ton of detail, is worth your time. We have less granularity than Baldur's Guide or the Thieves Guild book. It's more of a quick tool for DMs and players to be able to build out of. So looking at all these different structures and all these things that are in parentheses, for example, there are 5 commerce inns, and again, if you look at the previous content, structures are resources, and each rank in a community means you can have more exotic or more robust or more impressive structures that you're able to build in your society, into your community. A settlement of a farm and a freshly dug well doesn't warrant having a museum built next to it. I mean, unless you want to go off in the middle of nowhere and just have a museum in the middle of nowhere, like that the old Apple II game in the 1980s called Legacy of the Ancients. There was literally a museum in the middle of nowhere that ended up being the plot hook leading the character into all these adventures, going through different exhibits and questing to find different items in the museum or for the museum. Sort of related, like I just mentioned. That's kind of funny that came full circle like that. But okay, great. So we're looking at this, and we know that if you have a brewery listed in your town, it doesn't mean that there's only one brewery. It means that this town supports breweries. Like you could have 4 or 5 different IPA breweries in your town of 125,000 people. It's just a generic brewery. If you as a player, or if the DM wants to insert like Glomey's IPA brew or whatever, then you can establish that as a specific guild. And as we mentioned above, here in the general mechanics, that a community could build a brewery or a guild, a brewery company, a guild that brews beer could go to that community and fund having that structure built, which bonds that guild to this community. The guild always has that home base that it can operate its guild out of, and in exchange, the community that built that structure can now lean on that guild as a source of revenue for the rulership to tax to gain an exchange. Like, we gave you a resource, this building, and in exchange, as your guild grows in size, you can give us more resources in return as a tax payment for the infrastructure that we provided for you. First rank guilds don't pay taxes. Once they gain second rank, they become an investment that's paying off for the community. Second rank, it's your rank minus 1 is the amount of tax resources that you can pull. So looking at the doc, and I've gone through all this before in previous streams, but just to revisit it real quick here, when we are looking at resources, the rank, your rank is determined by the amount of resources you have. So if you are a first rank community, you're a settlement, you'll have at most 4 ranks, and then your population is going to be anywhere from 1 person up to 100. By the time you get to 100 or more, you're more of a village, and you've built enough buildings for that 100 plus people that you've got 16 resources, or like 16 significant structures in your community. By the time you get up to a city, you can have up to 65 resources, and then of course metropolis is going to be up to 100 resources. And once you hit that 100 resource cap, that's as big as a city resources gets. But a city could always peel off a chunk of resources and invest them in a new community that's nearby. Like if we're looking at Baldur's Gate here, like here's the actual city. But if this city, like currently we're demonstrating that that Baldur's Gate only has 65 resources from what had been laid out in Balduran's guide of specific structures, whether just generic structures, or like city walls is just a generic defensive structure that was built. Or you can go very specific, like there's a bakery, like there's one famous bakery, Harbreeze's Bakery in Balduran's in Baldur's Gate. There may be a plethora. I mean, there could be a bakery in each one of these wards. There could be 2 or 3 bakeries in each one of these wards. If people are going and buying bread every other day to stock their home with food for their kids, then there could be, there could be a dozen bakeries in this ward over here. But the only one they're pointing out specifically is Harbreeze's Bakery. That means that there is abundant room for a DM to just create the name of like Barry's Bakery is the next one that's out there, and now that becomes, say, a first rank organization of just like a family that bakes really good bread, and they want to invest and develop. So one of these buildings that's in the city becomes their bakery, their first rank. If they start building out their resources, like they start networking with people down on the docks to get a steady supply of flour that's being leavened upstream. In El Terrell, where they're grinding a bunch of grain up here, creating flour that they can send down by the bushel to Baldur's Gate. They've got a ton of flour that they're sending to Baldur's Gate next season, so that all of the shipping communities that are coming through here can export all that stuff. Maybe they'll drop off some cinnamon in exchange. So now, what was it? Boggles Bakery or whatever. I forget the name already. I'm just making stuff up as we go. But Boggles Bakery can now not only get flour from Elturel upstream here in the docks, but it can also get exotic flour or coriander, sugar from Cholts, like these different like all these different spices and exotic materials that are coming in from other docks. They have a place here, and you could, over the course of a season, develop an additional point of resources for Boggles Bakery. Their first point is going to be the actual bakery itself. We built a bakery. We now lease this bakery from the community. We now have to juggle creating our a lifestyle of at least poor or better standard each month, which we can then spend that 1 point of resource in to get a D4 as a first rank resource. Where is this at inside of the system here? Let me fetch that stuff up for you. First rank. Hold on. Let's go to rank. Total resources invested is the rank of effort that you're able to invest and the die roll that goes along with it. So a first rank community gets a +1. A second rank community gets a +2. A fifth rank community gets a +5. Not only community, but also guild. Guild and community are basically the same thing. Guilds are mobile, are organizations of individuals and resources working together towards a common goal. A community is a guild that is stationary and provides resources to those inside the community and to guilds that operate in and out of that community. So in both circumstances, both guilds and kingdoms use the same industry and ranking resources. So if this bakery invests one resource into a first rank effort, it can roll a D4 plus its rank, which is first rank. So it'd roll a D4 plus 1. For it to maintain a poor lifestyle, let's go to our task list real quick to look at lifestyle to see what, because you have to at least maintain a poor lifestyle as a guild to remain solvent as a guild. If you can't at least be poor doing your job, why are you doing that job? You would go someplace else. So you have to at least have a poor lifestyle that you can maintain for a community. But as you gain ranks, you can afford a better and better lifestyle until you get into aristocratic living, literally like a king. And that's expensive. So let's see exactly how expensive this stuff is. So we're down here on page 71, maintaining a lifestyle. Guilds maintaining a lifestyle. Again, you have to have at least a poor. And this is the scale of organization. So if you've got up to or less than 100 people in your organization, and Boggles Bakery has like a mom, a sister, a couple kids, maybe an uncle, whatever, maybe 6 people that are working out of this bakery. So to maintain that lifestyle, a poor lifestyle minimum is a DC 13. So if you're going to take that 1 point of resource that you have, your bakery, and this is our living. So you're going to take that 1 point of resources and you are going to invest it into building a new resource. So you would then roll a D20 plus D4 for the single resource plus your rank plus 1. And let me just roll real quick to see what I get. What you can do is you can just roll the die and see what you get and compare it to the table. So I rolled a 2. And then I'm going to roll my D4 as my kicker. I rolled a 2. And then I get my plus 1 on top of that as my rank in the bakery. So that's a plus 1. So 2 plus 2 plus 1 is a total of 5. I am not making it as an organization. This is my first season running this bakery. I am not above water. I better have a nest egg that I've invested into this community to maintain that poor lifestyle. Community maintaining a lifestyle, financing with gold. So to maintain a poor lifestyle, cost per creature per season is going to be 20 gold pieces. So if I got 6 guys, I need to generate 120 gold pieces worth of revenue to make my rent and to provide all the supplies, and for the 6 people in the bakery to maintain a poor lifestyle. If this bakery was opened by an adventurer who just wants to have a downtime activity, your first quest can be to create your nest egg to guarantee that you'll have the income that you need. But you could run in debt, and you could become you could then start owing favors to, say, the guild, the local Thieves Guild in the area. Is like, hey, I need to take out a loan. It looks like I need about 500 gold for me to be able to float my bakery for the next year while I build. And like, okay, great, we'll do that, but we're going to expect you to be able to pay back double on that, 1,000 gold over the course. So that would be a comfortable lifestyle. So as a debt to the Thieves Guild, by the end of the year, you need to be rolling comfortable DC 19 reliably. Otherwise, maybe the Thieves Guild comes and burns your bakery down, and you go out of business. So that's like a deal with the devil as a Descent in Avernus. That's a deal that you can make to make that happen. So that first rank, you have as a first rank organization, you can perform 1 task without penalties, and you get your 1 resource that you're trying to maintain a lifestyle with, and you failed that task this month. That has these repercussions. If you fail your check 3 times, kind of like death saves, you go out of business, and you just can't afford to. You burned out all your resources. You burned out all your pocket. You got to go out of business. There's other things that you can be doing beyond that. If since you're out of resources, you're going to be using 0 resources from here on for the rest of the season. So another thing that you can attempt to do is gather more resources. So since that's going to be a task that you have no resources left over to perform, it's going to be a 0 effort task. You still get your +1 because of your rank, and your bonus is D3 instead of a D4. So, and like you can see up here at 5th rank tasks, it takes 25 resources to invest a 5th rank effort, which allows you to roll a D12. And if you're not 5th rank, you are that rank is more difficult than your rank of your organization. So you'd be performing at disadvantage, even though you get, say, at 4th rank a +4 and a D12. It's going to roll at disadvantage because it's beyond your ability. So that's a real gambit that you have to take. Like if you have characters that have like inspiration or expertise, or can roll with advantage on ability checks like this, then you can potentially game the system so you can get rid of that disadvantage. Or if it's something that you would normally be able to perform, your characters could then invest their own resources to gain advantage on that roll, plus use their Bard's Inspiration die, or Flash of Insight from Artificer to give you bonuses on those die rolls like you would expect, or like Rogue Expertise to increase that +4 bonus to +8 instead, plus your D10 die roll. So suddenly a +8 on the die roll, plus a 10 here on your industry bonus. Maintaining a 19 comfortable lifestyle becomes really easy. All you have to do is roll basically like an 8 or above on a 20-sided die, and if you happen to be rolling with advantage, it gets even easier. So that's like the quick skinny of how that stuff works. So they burned out of resources. They only had the 1, but they want to gain more resources. So they can attempt to perform additional tasks. Since they're out of resources, it's only going to be a D3. So they could take their D20 plus their 1 plus their D3. So playing simulator over here, I roll a 6 and I roll a 2. So that's a total of 8. And then I get the +1, that's a 9. I am a first rank organization that's trying to build a first rank resource. 13, 16, 19, 22, 25. I had to roll a 13. So not only did I not be able to maintain my wealth this first season, but I also wasn't able to establish any clear supply chains to gain another resource for me to be able to continue expanding. That's my first season. I'm in debt. It's a normal restaurant. Welcome to it. Everyone's like this way. You're expected to operate in the real world. If you can't handle at least a year, if not 3 years worth of revenue loss, 9 times out of 10 your restaurant's going out of business. That's like that's real world physics working against you there. And this system offers that to you as well. It's a great reason to go on an adventure, to get 1,000 gold for you to invest into your business so it can stay afloat. Like, it's a good money sink. You know, we need money sinks in D&D because we don't have anything to do with our gold. This is a great way to use your gold. So you're trying to maintain a lifestyle and you failed. You're trying to build resources and you failed. You are already beyond your 1 task. You're now in 2 tasks. If someone were to come to you and say, hey, I have a special order, I'm willing to, and like this can just be a random encounter thing that crops up, I'm willing to pay you 200 gold if you're able to perform a catering gig for the council, the Council of 4. They, for some reason, have decided to tap you as, I guess, Merchant of the Month that they're willing to highlight and take a look at. So they have burdened you or blessed you with the task of create us something amazing and bring it to us for us to sample. This is now going to be a specific check. Your characters, if they own Boggle's Bakery, this is the sort of thing that your characters would want to directly be involved in, using their skill bonuses, their resources, create food and water, for example, as a cleric, to be able to create magical things, and then you could use like a crafting check using your baker tools to lock those things in as something that isn't just going to disappear as a magical effect, but as a true creation that you manipulated using your character's magics to embellish and become amazing on top of it. So that's going to be, since you've overclocked your tasks already for the month, you would do your +1 and your D3 as just an organization. Or again, if your players, like if you wanted your players to personally handle it, they can, using their ability checks and their resources. Or you could just tap one of the bakers as a specialist inside of that bakery. A baker specialist, they're only going to be first rank because it's only a first rank organization, and organizations don't create ranks, don't create specialists of a higher rank than the organization itself. How would they have learned that skill inside of that bakery? They would have to go to a bigger, better bakery or one of the academies here in town to be able to gain that level of expertise. So you've got your specialists, they're in the commerce industry because they make goods, or they could be in the health industry making nutritious, delicious, and safe food. So you could go either way of having commerce or health expertise. And then if they're only a first rank expert, they've only been in business for 1 season here, they would have a total of a +3 bonus. So I could do a D20. I rolled a natural 20. Oh my god, I kid you not. Look at that, baby. Natural 20. Oof. Okay, so they rocked this gig. They crushed it. And as a result of it, they got, what was it, 200 gold, and they're going to have advantage, and like maybe another benefit is like they get advantage on their check to gain resources. So they're stoked. They're able to pay off. They're able to make good on their payroll this month because they needed 100 gold. So they needed 120. It was 20 times the number of people working there. It was 6 people working there, so it's 120 gold. They're set there. And now they have 80 gold left over, which goes a long way towards them being able to underwrite their wealth. So it's next season. They're going to prioritize it to gain that advantage. They're going to prioritize networking to gain a new resource instead of anything else. So they're going to use their D4. Let's see. We're going to go back to looking at the resources here. So their first rank, they're going to go back. They're going to get their +1. They're going to get their D4 on top of their D20. So we're going to roll a D20 twice. We're going to roll the 4-sided die twice. And then we're going to add the +1 bonus. So let's do that. We'll go with 20 I rolled a 15, already looking great. That's enough all by itself for us to automatically succeed at the DC 13 to gain a resource this season. So this season, I'm just stopping right there. They succeeded. So then they'll get that resource at the end of the season. They only had one resource to begin with, which they just invested into building a second resource, and we'll see what that means. But now they need to maintain their lifestyle. They already have 80 gold that they can afford to spend to mitigate the cost of making their check. So I'm just going to roll the d20 and add a d3 plus 1. So the d20 is bounced out. D20, I rolled a 14. So I've automatically been able to maintain a modest lifestyle. We can stay in business just that much longer. But let's go ahead and live beyond our means. So we're going to roll the d3, and we rolled a 3. So we're now up to 17. We add the plus 1. That's an 18. That means that we are in a what was that? A comfortable lifestyle. Let's tool back down here to look at lifestyles again real quick. And when this is a PDF, I'll have obviously a table of content. I'll have a TOC sidebar that you can just click into all this stuff to get there easily. Social challenges, recruiting, researching. Ooh, I went too far. Research, networking, maintaining, surveillance, espionage, building structures, creating, surveillance. It's right around here, somewhere. Espionage, maintaining lifestyle. There we go. Modest. Yeah, we just hit a modest lifestyle. We just fell short of comfortable by 1. We rolled an 18. So we're going to have a modest lifestyle this year. So not bad. We could drop down to a poor lifestyle if we wanted to. We hit modest, but we could maintain a poor lifestyle instead. So let's see. That would be the difference of, 80 gold per person is the difference that we would have there. So we could theoretically allow ourselves to stay poor this season and then backlog that additional gold. That 80 times 6, 480 gold, plus the 80 gold that we already had from the season. That's 560 gold that we're able to pocket. That's 4 seasons. That's an entire year of wages that we've covered for ourselves. So we are, at this time, we don't have to go adventuring. We don't have to borrow money from the guild and get our thumbs cut off or our home burned down. We are solvent for the next year. And it only just took a couple die rolls for us to do that. So you can see how that, hopefully you can see how that system works. But now, you refuse the aid of the guild, or you paid them off too quickly. Now they're angry at you. They think that you're disrespecting them. So maybe they're going to come and use espionage against you to try to sabotage your bakery. So I'm just going to roll a D20. The guild is let's say it's a 3rd rank organization. So they're going to have a +3 to their die roll. You're going to do a D4, D6. They're going to have a D8 plus a 3 plus their die roll. So I roll a D20, which is only a 4. I'm going to roll the D8, which is a 5. So that's a 9 plus 3. The DC is 12. So if Boggles Bakery was smart and realized that there may be a problem with the guild next season because he paid off their debt way too quickly, they didn't get the return that they wanted out of it, or they didn't get the leverage in the neighborhood that they wanted, is more likely. Then your characters, if their passive perception is 12 or higher, this is during their downtime, if their passive is at least 12, they're going to start noticing, hey, there's a bunch of hoodlums that are hanging out here a lot, and they're starting to harass people that are coming into our store. This is when your players can engage in a hook of, let's chase these guys out of here, and unfortunately draw attention of higher level thugs from the guild that is now taking a particular interest, not only in the bakery, but is going to keep an eye on where you are in town, or more importantly, when you leave town, to either ambush you on the road, wait for you to return battered and bruised for a long rest, and take away from you whatever treasures it is that you found on your last adventure, and may decide to burn down your bakery instead. So you come back from your adventure, your bakery is on fire, and somebody is attempting to mug you. That's D&D, man. But this is all just spinning off of just this one note here that they have this one bakery, this Harbury's Bakery, and you wanted to create a competing bakery in town against Harbury's. This is where it's getting you. Harbury's may be networking with the guild, the Thieves Guild, to be the premier bakery in town, and they're pissed that the Council of Ford chose Boggle's Bakery instead of Harbury's Bakery for the big gala event, and now they specifically are sending the guild after you. So I mean, that's the kind of shenanigans that can develop if you want to embrace guilds and kingdoms inside of your campaign to be a hook generator. This is all just on the fly. So, but back to the relevance. So we can see that in the case study here, Baldur's Gate has a total of 65 resources. So that means that as an organization, right? They're going to be operating as a 5th rank. They can operate as a 5th rank organization if they have up to 5 ranks of resources available, which requires 25 resources, right? So if we go back to Baldur's Gate here, we can see it was scrolling back down to here. There we go. Let's see. Crafting, construction, Baldur's Gate, community, town, resources, tax, the DC to gain those taxes. Let's see. This is the leadership stuff. Ruling a kingdom as an organization. Let's see. Performing tax, sharing resources, using resources, different structures like you can see here. Here's the bakery. So it's listed as a 2nd rank sort of resource. I think I have it labeled. Let's look at the base. Study, brewery, inn, bazaar, commerce. Let's go down here to health. I have it listed as a 2nd rank, as a 1st rank, but it's actually a 2nd rank resource. So there we go. Making that fix there real quick. I mean, it's all just flavor text. It doesn't really matter. I could say that bakery is a 1st rank organization if I wanted to. There's technically no rules. This is just an example of different structures by industry and rank. So in the health industry, bakery here is listed as 2nd rank, but it could be 1st rank instead if I wanted to. It's up to your DM to decide what rank you want different things are. There are no actual mechanical implications of having a bakery 1st rank versus 2nd rank, other than to say if it's just a village, like if it's just a settlement with like a dugout well and a farm, you can see like a farm collective and a well are 1st rank, but a bakery is you gotta have enough people buying bread in your community to have a bakery. You can't do that with just a hole in the ground and an ox over there. It's like we need more people here, so that's how that gets built out. What up, Hornetico? I am talking about the Baldur's Gate case study that we have for our Descent into Avernus, and true to form, I'm just ranting about whatever it is I'm staring at the moment, and hoping it turns into cohesive statements. So, because Descent into Avernus, they had. So here's how we came about creating this. It says here specifically in Descent into Avernus, population is 125,000, right? So if we go to our map, our kingdom system, the DMG shows you the population of different sized communities. And according to the DMG, now keep in mind, I take a lot of issue with how the DMsGuild doesn't really have logic built into the structure as to like why is it more than 6,000 people in a town becomes a city? There's no structural relevance to that. Why is 25,000 people the cap for a city and then it becomes metropolis? There's no structure that tells you why those numbers work the way that they are. So respecting the population caps that the DMG puts in there, we build a more stratified structure for the size of a population inside of communities. If you're a settlement, by the time you get up to 100 people in that settlement, it's more of a village than a settlement. By the time you get to 1,000 people in that village, it's more of a town than a village. And by the time you get up to 10,000 people in that town, you're starting to look more like a city, not a town. And by the time you get to 100,000 people in that city, it's a metropolis. And so that's the rank of these different things. 1st rank settlement, 5th rank metropolis. So when we go back and we look at Baldur's Gate, it has a population of 125,000. That immediately tells us that Baldur's Gate, with 100,000 people, should have more than 65 resources, right? Keep in mind, Balduran's Guide was written, like 3 years ago. And if you add up all of these different building resources, you get to 65. 65 is one more than 64, coincidentally enough, and I just built this case study yesterday or so. I didn't know what the numbers would come out to. It just coincidentally happens that Baldur's Gate has 65 structures, just beyond being a city. When Balduran's Guide was written, it only had a population of 42,000. So, hold on, let's look up here. Baldur's Gate, at the time, humanoid coastal terrain, I think it has it listed in here. It doesn't, it's somewhere else in the book. But anywhere, at the time, it was listed as 42,000 people, right? Which would have put it squarely inside of the 4th rank, or just being a city. Interestingly, though, Baldur's Descent into Avernus is all about people flooding from Elturel into Baldur's Gate as refugees, vastly expanding the amount of population in the area, creating tent cities, lots of vagrants, and lots of crime and other potential adventure opportunities, which is why your characters start in Baldur's Gate at first level to lead you into that mill. But as a result of all that extra people coming in, we now have a population of 125,000 people. They have 65 resources. So here's the thing. Going back to the geopolitics we were talking about earlier, Elturel, now missing, was the health and food hub for this entire region. Baldur's Gate has a measly 2 health structures. It is only qualifies as in a metropolis. It is a first rank organization for producing food for itself. It cannot do that. So what does that end up meaning? That means that it has to spend a ton of its resources importing food from shipping caravans, and more importantly, from Elturel. So they would have had to have used a lot of their commerce structure resources. They can get up to 4th rank in any commerce activity that they decide to perform. So instead of trying to produce the food themselves as a health task, which would be a D20 plus D4 plus 5 to attempt to hit a number at that population, it'd be like a DC 23 that they would have to roll on, a D4 plus 5 on a D20. They could do it, but it's unlikely that they could do that. Instead, it would be so much easier for them to use their commerce score to invest in food merchants from Elturel that would then be using supply chains to push food down the river into Baldur's Gate, so that you could always have a steady, like it's 2 days downstream to get from Elturel to Baldur's Gate. So you can establish a supply chain using those resources at the 4th rank to be able to invest in having multiple guilds bringing that food downstream so that there's sufficient supply available. But now that Elturel is gone, those food supplies are gone. So now it's going to be one season and Baldur's Gate starts to starve. They've lost at least half of their food supply from Elturel. If you can't get Baldur's Gate solved in the next season, what will happen is a mutiny. So what we're looking at here, after we look at all these different the different structures that are providing different levels of resources inside of your community, you get down to the end of it here, and where are we looking at? Oh, this is just a list. But okay, so the quick skinny up here. Let's see, religion, organization. Is this the right document? Hold on, let me scroll down. It's page 60. Let me scroll down here to make sure. Military resources, descent, currently 16. Oh, the playtest content has more details in it than the source document because I went into the raw document to expand the resources. So let me go back here real quick and fix that real fast. Hold on. We'll fix this up. We'll fix this up right quick. Hold on. This is cutty pasty. There we go. Okay, cool. So now that we have proper documentation, let's go back to the city here. Rulers of the Council of Four. We'll get into them in a minute. Here's a list of resources by industry. Okay, great. So we got the 65 resources, 125,000 population. They've got 18 resources in commerce, and 16 it's one first rank, one resource, second rank 4, 9, 16, 25. They just became a 5th rank community, right? So they only have 1 point more. Like, it takes 64 resources. Again, going back to the handy dandy guide that we have here in the playtest document. You can have a city of 4th rank and have up to 64 resources. As soon as you push past 64 resources, you become a 5th rank organization. If you have more than 100,000 people in your community, you will have more than 64 resources. Whether they're well organized or not is another question. But the amount of people that are in that community generates 65 or more resources up to 100. So that's what we're seeing here coincidentally with Baldur's Gate. I didn't know any of this before I created the system. It just happens to work out that way. It's amazing. So they got the 65 resources and they have to divide all of those between the 6 industries. So this is how the buildings are distributed according to Baldur's Gate. Balduran's guide. So we already have all that. So we can just math it out. We have the list down here. You can see all the different structures. So you can see that there's 18, which is 2 more. So you can have 4th rank commerce efforts, and you have 2 resources left over. All of these left over, like you can see down here in health, they only have 2 ranks. So at best they can have 2 resources. At best they can have a 1st rank resource, which only requires 1 resource to be able to perform 1st rank. But you'd have to have at least 4 to perform a 2nd rank task. So they can't produce 2nd rank efforts in promoting health inside their own community. So they have all these stray unused resources which pile up. Let's see, 16 resources invested in. They had a total of 18 here. So let me go ahead and rewrite that here. 18 undelegated resources. Right, but 16 resources invested in counter espionage, and then total undelegated resources is 2 left over. 16 is a 4th rank task. If we go back into tasks, into espionage, you can then go down to counter espionage, stealing, sabotage, sowing rumors, and then counter espionage. So when you invest in counter espionage, you can make an opposed check against any attempts to ruin your reputation, perform sabotage, or steal. So what were we talking about? We were talking about Baldur's Gate being in desperate peril of being vastly overpopulated for the amount of food that they're able to provide now that Elturel has literally gone to hell. So they've got till the end of this season to resolve that threat. Otherwise, they aren't going to be able to feed the people, and that is going to create riots. It's going to create pillaging. It is going to create splinter organizations. It is going to create crime waves. Looking at the espionage tasks here, we can look at, let's say, go down into sabotage. So you can perform seize and destroy resources as people riot over food. You could have a small group of people that are attempting to say they just roll a d20. You have like a small collection of houses that are going to go raid a warehouse to try to steal food from it so that their homes can be fed for the next season. So they're a first rank organization that's attempting this heist. So they're going to roll a d20. They rolled a 5. And now they're going to add their d4, which they roll a 1. And then their first rank organization, a collection of looters, which is a +1, so they get their 4, their 1, and their 1. That's a total of 6, right? So what we have listed here is they've invested 16 resources into a 4th rank effort of counter espionage. So when this little gang tries to loot a warehouse and they roll a 6, then that's automatically going to get rolled against the community's counter espionage roll, which is 4th rank, which is going to be a D10 plus 4. I'm sorry, it's a 5th rank is a 5th rank community plus 5. I'll roll a D10 because of the 4th rank task, and a D20 because it's a 5e game. They rolled a 3 on the D20. They rolled a 6 on the 20-sided die, so that puts them at 9. And then they get plus 5 for the rank of the organization. That's an 11. That vastly outscales the 6. Those looters are caught. The task was that if they were trying to break into, say, a 2nd rank warehouse with guards and stuff, they're going to get caught, and then they're going to be fined or arrested and thrown in jail, which could spark a class riot. You're arresting people for trying to feed themselves. Now it becomes an attack on the renown of people that are bad-mouthing the way that the city is handling their food shortage. You're arresting people. Instead of going out and securing food, you're arresting people. Now you've got a PR problem on your hand. So the next thing that they have to deal with is sowing rumors of disloyalty, attacking you, and it was only a 1st rank group of people that were trying to loot that warehouse, but has gotten the attention of a 3rd rank bard in the area. And a 3rd rank bard as a specialist is able to not only use Vicious Mockery as a spell to cast against anybody that would try to badmouth him while he's talking shop, but as his own espionage ploy, can come up here into the specialists, and you can see a 3rd rank working loyalty, sowing dismay. 3rd rank, it'd have a +7 to its die roll, right? So now it's going to roll a d20. It's going to add +7 to its die roll. If it's a PC, you could use, say, Bardic Inspiration, a d10 on top of that. So let's just roll this real quick. I get my d20 and my +7. So I rolled an 8. I get my +7, and I'm going to use an Inspiration Bard die, which is a 6. So I rolled my 7, a 6. I rolled a 6. I rolled a 6 on this die, so that's a 12. And then +7 is a 19. So I've got a 19 working for me. The loyalty that Baldur's Gate has accumulated currently is loyalty's a 3rd rank, so it's going to be a d20 +5, and then 3rd rank is +8. So I'm going to roll a d20. Roll a d20, which is a natural 1. Haha! Well done, guy. And I'm going to roll a d8, which is a 2, so I'm rocking a 3 so far. And then it's 4, it's an 8. I rolled a 19 on my defamation roll from the bard that set up shop in town, talking trash about how the government's handling their misallocation of food resources. The organization has failed miserably at being able to perform counter-espionage against that. Now that bard gets to strip away 3rd rank D8 resources. It rolled a 5. So Baldur's Gate just lost 5 resources this season due to the reputation being damaged. If we go back to we can see that it's got a total of 65 minus 60, and then the DM can roll a d6. I rolled a 3, 1, 2, 3. That just happens to be loyalty. So this bard has stripped out 5 points of resources. That drops the community down to 5. It can now, at best, It can still perform a third rank task, but it doesn't have any resources left over. So it's lost those 5 resources from loyalty specifically. It's now only got 60 resources available for it total. It is in the process of eroding from a fresh metropolis down to only a city, which means it's going to lose however much population it is that exceeds 100,000 next season because there's no food here anymore. You see how all this folds together? The thought process is kind of a walkthrough, but it's only been 6 die rolls that we've made to establish the bakery, to establish that the food chains have been cut off, to attempt stopping people doing food raids and supply in warehouses, and the counter espionage rules that go along with it. This is a downtime activity for your character to perform. Just set the stage for food riots inside Baldur's Gate. It only took a couple die rolls. We already have all the stats laid out. Your DM, whenever you go into a community, you can just see what the population size is, or roughly what you think the population size is, or what kind of tier of government, like what would its total size be as a community, using these reference points. And then you can decide, well, it's probably got 10,000, maybe it's got like 20,000 people. Okay, great. Well, let's look at a 20,000 person community. So that's going to be starting a new guild, commerce, guild, down to kingdoms. Great, 20,000 people. That's going to be a small city, right? So 10K to 100K. This is going to be a small city now. So that 20K, it has anywhere from 37 to 64 points. So let's just roll. Let's just make 36 our base, and I don't know. Let's roll a d20 on top of it. 5. So this place is going to have 41 points of resources. Is it a military town? Is it a commerce trade center? Is it farmland? Is it a scholar center, or are there thieves guilds here? Or is it on a border that has explorations going into it? That could feed into lore. Is there a long tradition here? That could feed into loyalty. The DM can take those 40 points and you can just arbitrarily assign them as you think is appropriate. Like let's take a city like a growing city in Chult. I don't know what one would be. I don't know Chult. But it's got 41 resources, right? So we've got commerce, we've got health, we've got lore, we've got loyalty, we've got military, and we've got religion. It's in Chult, so it's a resource-rich region. So let's give them they're at best 4th rank with 20,000 people. So they could have let's see, Chult Town, or Chult City. We'll call it Chult City. We already determined it has 41 resources, right? Minimum of 36. 36 plus. So let's give it, say, let's go 3rd rank in commerce. Let's go 2nd rank in health. Let's go 3rd rank in lore. Let's go 1 rank in loyalty because it's a transient community for now. Let's go 4 with military because it's on the border and it leads in the forest where there's dinosaurs. Your team is going to go down here to collect that T-Rex that we talked about earlier in the museum example. So they have a large military presence, and religion, it's kind of weak. So we know that religion, the amount of resources that you need to devote to each of these is 9, 4, 9, 1, 16, 4. That's going to be total equals 21, 30, 43. 43 resources total, right? But it only has 41, so I have to skim something back. Let's skim back the military to 3rd rank. And 3rd rank, that's going to be 9. That's going to be minus 7. So that's going to be 36. There you go. Plus, it's got 5 points left over for indiscriminate spending. Maybe it devotes a point of resource to hire you to hunt down a T-Rex that's been attacking local outlying villages recently. They need somebody big enough to take it on. A T-Rex is a CR8 creature. That's a 3rd rank creature in the in-command document at the top of the document on page 5. You can see that a T-Rex is a 3rd rank, which means that it's appropriate for a 3rd rank party, say your characters are level 6, to go hunt down that T-Rex. Perfect. Not only are we going to get a point of resources from this Chult City community, of any resource, they may offer a specific resource, or it could be, your pick. They'll give you a point of resources to spend however you want, either in the community or to take away with you as, say, gold. And on top of that, you get the T-Rex skull that you can take back to Baldur's Gate to give to the museum as a quest reward. It then also grants you a resource from its 3rd rank resource stockpile. So now you've got these 2 points of resource, one from Chult, one from the museum. You can use that to establish connections between Chult and Baldur's Gate for more exotic animals. You could be building, say, a monster hunter, ranger character with a bard, for instance. And you could then be going into Chult looking for exotic animals to bring back to the museum or to sell exotic materials for alchemy and stuff like that. So that's the quick skinny on resources there. I am just about out of time, I'm certain. Yeah, damn near out of time. So what happened, we're looking at the case study here. That's how you break down the resources. This is how you can build and use guilds interacting with each other using the task system that we already have built out inside of here that we've discussed a number of different sessions already. Each community is ruled by has a rulership, and a lot is either an individual, which is a specialist of a certain rank. Last go. Let's see how long I've been on clock here. We've been just for an hour, so I've got a 20-minute block, and then we'll be done for the day. So you can either have an individual like a monarch, which would be their personal specialization as being that community's ruler, and they would have to be the same rank as the community. Like, if you're going to run Baldur's Gate, you have to be 5th rank. Otherwise, the city doesn't trust your leadership, doesn't trust you're a large enough, an experienced enough leader to oversee the survival of this. So, looking down here, they just gained 5th rank status sooner probably than they expected. So the rulers here, the Council of Four, and they're all 4th rank. I had set these guys up as 4th rank, which means they aren't a high enough rank to keep the lid on this place. So they are in desperate. They can't properly tax the larger organizations. The Flaming Fist Mercenary Guild could attempt to perform a coup and take over in martial law until they can get these guys up, until they can gain rank to get up to 5th rank this next season. If they can't do it by this season, if they can't gain 5th rank themselves, then the whole place is going to go to shit. And we already knew that because they don't have any food. That would be the catalyst, the lack of food, that sparks this place falling apart. It would immediately strip out, and you would have however many resources that they lose as a result of, like, this bard doing his defamation campaign, costing them 6 resources, knocking them down from metropolis down to just a city. Those stray points, they don't just go away. They become a rival faction. It becomes a rogue element inside of this city that is attempting to basically amass its own power to create its own solutions wherever the faults are found, which is a lack of leadership and a lack of food. So these 6 points of resources can attempt rallying more and more resources around them as its own sabotage, espionage, exploits to rally enough people to create its own base of power. And what would the leaders be trying to do? If they are truly noble, they would be attempting to establish supply food chains to provide food to the poorest there. So it could be a 1st or 2nd rank operation at first that could eventually grow into an independent organization that's able to provide enough food stable inside of Baldur's Gate, which would then become a potential rival to the political power, to the ruling class that's already established there, that's been more interested in establishing aristocratic lifestyle for themselves than maintaining a base minimum poor lifestyle for everybody, the other 125,000 people that are relying on this place to work. That's your next season's faction, your next season's conflict. The food riots, and keeping a lid on that, and making sure that the place doesn't self-destruct. So this fourth rank organization, they're able to collect resources. They can get a total of 58 resources from all these different named organizations that are second or higher rank. There's a total of, like, say, the Academy is third rank, so they can get 2 resources in taxes. These aren't buildings per se. It's just a floating resource or gold that they can then allocate into different tasks as resources, like that counter-espionage campaign. Or they could hire additional mercenaries to aid the Fist, the Flaming Fist, as well as the Town Watch. They could spend, say, 16 of these 58 resources that they've gathered. They've dumped a lot of them into, like we saw up here, they dumped 16 resources into the city, into counter-espionage, to locate and stop riots, stop looting, stop the Thieves Guild from advancing, and stop defamation campaigns like we went through with the Bard. But beyond that, the four themselves could use those 58 resources, and instead of, say, spending 25 of them to maintain an aristocratic lifestyle, they could instead spend, say, 9 of them to hire new additional mercenaries, and then the other 16 points in a reduced effort to maintain their aristocratic lifestyle. It'll be more difficult for them to do so. This next season, they may only be wealthy, not aristocratic. So they're going to be taking their lumps too. It's like, hey, we're all starving here. It's like, well, I mean, yeah, you guys are only eating 1 duck instead of like a cockatrice. Meanwhile, little Timmy hasn't eaten in 3 days and is now fighting a rat for a grape. So, deal with that. But they gather up all these named locations, the Worm's Rock. That's only a first-rank organization, so they aren't getting any taxes from the revenue created there. But these 4 noble estates, they create 3 resources each. It's third rank -1. 1, 2, 3, 4. They get 8 resources worth of taxes just off of these noble houses, right? And these noble houses are the 4 houses that belong to the Council of 4. So they're paying their dues, but they're immediately able to invest those 8 resources into the aristocratic lifestyle, that they're pooling resources from the museum and the academy and the bakers. All these different resources are pooling those 58 points that they can then just reinvest back into themselves to get that noble house aristocratic lifestyle. But they could be contested. They're only 4th rank. They're only like 1/8 CR characters, like with 3 hit points. You could easily kill all of them as a PC adventure. But politically, they're 4th rank. They have +9 on their die rolls anytime you come at them face to face in a debate. Chances are they're going to win you over. If you're just a common citizen who only has like maybe a +1, like anywhere from like a -2 to a +3 at best, that +9 is going to blow you out of the water. It's like you're talking to a celebrity, and in the way that they project themselves, they know it, and they know they're outclassing you. So when you have a problem with them, they're able to run circles around you with rhetoric and hand clapping and language you want to hear. But when you walk out of it, it's like, wait a second, I just got friend spelled. I'm extra angry now. You didn't actually answer any of my questions. You've just now galvanized resistance next season. If the food situation doesn't get fixed, they're going to remember that specific instance of you doing that friend spell at them and tricking them into thinking that you're friends until you realize that they're not, and that they're screwing you over, and your kid's still hungry. So that's some of the quick mechanics. This is all up in the play. I'm going to go ahead and stop here because I'm like in super ramble mode. But this is how this stuff plays out. And like this is just a baker interacting with the world where there's no food coming into the town now. Like we were building these cinnamon buns that were awesome, and all of a sudden Eltrell vanishes. We can't make cinnamon buns anymore. We're not getting party. We're not getting party gigs. It's a good thing at the beginning of this session we really just landed that resource and got that 580 gold stockpile, because it could be a year before this place recovers and we're able to reestablish those supply chains for us to be able to continue growing our organization, our bakery. It's a good thing we've got that nest egg that we gained by that huge wealth resource that we rolled last season. We're going to completely eat that up. We may even need to spend that gold to purchase night security to make sure our bakery doesn't get burned down or looted. So that, and if this is your character's bakery, this becomes a lot of downtime activities that you can pay as much or as little attention to as part of your game. It's 1 or 2 die rolls if that's all you want, as just a casual once per season downtime activity, or you can spend an entire session just diving into this mess with me. I got to spend an hour and 10 minutes just diving into Baldur's Gate geopolitical structure, how it sits on the map of the world, what problems they're facing, and what the biggest challenges they're having next season. If your team really wants to get into the politics of Baldur's Gate from level 1 to 5, while you're waiting to get a high enough level to be able to actually go into hell and start driving around in war machines and build an army and rescue Elturel from hell directly, this is the kind of stuff that you can be doing as a low-risk situation for first-level characters to gain levels by performing tasks and interacting with the Flaming Fist and interacting with the merchant guilds down on the docks and interacting with the Thieves Guild. Descendant of Avernus gives you some ideas about things that you could be doing in your campaign to gain those levels and to create an excuse for you to go in. But if you use this method instead and use these commerce resources in this 4X style of game, you can be building out what part of society are my characters most interested in, and then start building a path from here to, you now have the Council of Four's attention, and they're telling you, look, the intel that we're getting back from the Flaming Fist that's checking out Elturel tells us they've gone to hell. We've been talking to the Shantil temple here in town, and they've got a guy coming in. They can plane shift you into hell for you to start looking at what's going on. We will pay you handsomely for this. We will give you 10 resources if you can bring Elturel back and help reestablish the food supply chains with us. You can do whatever you want with those resources here in town, or to establish with Elturel, or whatever else to establish your own guild. That's enough for a 3rd rank task and to have a point left over for an additional 1st rank task slush fund. That's your reward from Baldur's Gate to bring back Elturel, to reestablish the food supply chains. Each season that it takes you more, and like if you can do it in 1 season, here's 10 resources. For each season beyond that, we're going to reduce the die roll from 10. It's going to then, if it takes more than 1 season, it'll be a D8. And that's how many resources you get instead. If it takes 2 seasons, Jesus. If it takes you 2 seasons to come back with Elturel, we're going to be looking real ugly here. We can only give you at best D6 resources. If it takes a whole year, D4, then down to a D3. And if it takes more than a year, chances are we can only give you, at best, you'll always be able to get a D3, but that's nothing compared to the 10 that we offered you right off the cuff. So your team is motivated. You've got a timer. The faster you can achieve this goal while you're in hell, the sooner you can get Elturel back, the faster you can get your resources. You can then use those resources to establish, say, a new bond, whatever it is that your characters want to do at 15th level, beyond Baldur's Gate Descendant of Avernus. But that's the thought process. You can start off as simple bakers. This becomes a thing. Turns out that we're the ones, it's our destiny, so of course the camera's following us around. But we start off as simple bakers. We go through the food riots. We get in with the Flaming Fist. We become renowned. 1st level food riots. 2nd level, you're negotiating with the Flaming Fist to prevent them from killing rioters, for instance. You now establish yourself as a go-to. 3rd level, you are now actively working with the Flaming Fist as a mercenary, your own mercenary guild, to try to keep different communities inside the city from actively warring and rioting with each other. That takes you to the 4th level. At 4th level, they start letting you in. It's like, look, we know what happened. Reports are coming in as to what happened with Elturel, and this is what we think, and that cues up that Shantil conversation, or Timora, or Gond, are the churches that are here in town. They want to save people. They're overtaxed. They're bringing in higher rank individuals. Once you got the third, fourth rank individuals coming in to help establish how the churches can help the communities, they're going to have enough divine power to actually be able to plane shift you. Great. Flaming Fist, Church Tamora, working with you. Thank you for saving all these people from killing themselves. We're now starting to establish some food supply chains. We now know that this is a big demon plot that's going on. Our guy showed up. He can plane shift. You're the hot seat. It's your camera because you're the heroes of the adventure. We're plane shifting you into Elturel just to get an assessment. So hopefully we can confirm there's something to come back. And if there is, start figuring things out. That's you, 4th level. 5th level, you get gated into hell. And now you're in Elturel and you're doing all the little population things in there. Finding refugees, finding people buried in rubble, leading refugees to the city commerce building in Elturel while fighting demons. Make your way down the chain. You're now seeing your 6th level now, and you're seeing there's a standoff at these 8 different chains and the pittons that are pinning them above the river Styx. There's a huge standoff between the devils and the demons. You're able to skirt past them, and you find your first war machine, or you win it in a fight. And now you're thinking, well, where do we need to go? You run across Mad Maxine. She's like, well, I've got a shop. We can fix this truck, and it seems like we're going to have to get the city freed. I can help you with that if you want to give me some of these souls along the way, or whatever deals it is that you're making with Mad Maxine. And now you're officially into the Descent into Avernus content. You're amassing infernal war machines to create a large enough force to start unhooking these pittons so that you can pull the city floating away out of the river Styx. And by the time you go from level 6 to level 15, you'll be able to free the entire city. You'll have awakened the companion. You'll be able to create a large enough arcane gate that can pull Elturel back to the material plane, seal the entrance behind you, shut off the Blood War from being able to use this city as a resource. And now you're back in Toril. You've reestablished the food supply chains. Elturel gives you resources. The Church of Tamora or whoever gives you resources. The city of Baldur's Gate gives you resources. And you're 15th level with a stack of like 25 resources. And you are ready to take this mercenary guild like Hell's Heroes. It may be the organization that you create out of this. Planar Rift Resolvers. And now you 15th level, you're in 3rd, pushing 4th tier. You're now going to different communities looking at extra planar threats. If Zariel tried this once, another demon prince could try it again. The rest of your campaign going to level 20 could be you actively attempting to stop the Blood War from flooding into Toril. You going back into hell, punching the demon princes in the nose so that their resources they're amassing aren't able to flood out of hell, and it has to stay contained inside a Blood War. And you can end your campaign knowing that you saved Toril, at least for the rest of your life, from descending into hell again. So that's the quick skinny. That's what this whole book is about. After you get through this kingdom stuff, you can see that the next playtest content that we have down here is that was the case study for the that's right, the case study for Baldur's Gate specifically, and then coincidentally right after that is all of the vehicle and siege weapon combat that we've been using in the playtests on Saturdays for Infernal War Machines, building that army to be the 3rd prong for a little while in the Blood War, just like Zariel had hoped that she would have been. But she got too vain and made the mistake. Your characters, maybe you can avoid the same pitfalls. Build your 3rd prong. Punch through both the demons and the devils to get to the chains, to release Elturel, to put it back in. Maybe you have to make some horrible bargains along the way. And your conclusion for your campaign is we're all stuck in Avernus now with Zariel. And we're trying to find a way to free our souls so we can go home. and that becomes your 20th level quest to free yourselves in the same pickle that Zariel got herself trapped in. Maybe she's still stuck there, and you're stuck with her, and all the resources that you're trying to build is a large enough army for you to be able to make a difference, to be able to win your soul back from Asmodeus or Baal or whoever it is that holds your contract. So that's one of the paths. So this has been my case study of Baldur's Gate in Descent into Avernus. It's only a small piece of all the possible things that you could be doing with this size of an organization, but it only takes a page or two to explain it. But all the variables that dive into it are just, you can literally fill a 20-level campaign just with the stuff that's here in Baldur's Gate, depending on how crazy off the rails you want to go with it. So hopefully this is cool to you. I'm going to cut stream here. Like, subscribe. I do this stuff often. If you check my history here, I got a shitload of content about this sort of ideation. When these books publish, that's when we can really start talking about ideas and how to use these resources to build on top of it. I love 4X games. I love D&D 5e. The whole purpose of In Command is to build a bridge between Civ 6 4X games into your heroic fantasy, kind of taking a step back from 5e back to first edition, when it was assumed your characters by 6th level would have 3d12 followers, kind of like we have with the case study of the Simic Combine. It's fascinating that they started breaching this idea about giving you followers at different ranks of command as you gain levels, so you have more and more people following you to be able to do larger and larger tasks like I've been talking about. But there's zero content inside of Wizard of the Coast material to explain how are you supposed to effectively operate a 4X system. And I'll risk my own hubris and saying that I haven't really seen any other, Kingdoms and Warfares or like Guilds and Kingdoms or any other system come out that has basic ability score mechanics that fold into the same curve of bounded accuracy that you see characters being able to do of an equal rank, that you can build out into these organizations like they offered us in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, that has you amassing these troops. Like we're building the language for you to have something to do with 40 followers. Like, what are you supposed to do with 40 followers? Here's everything you can do with them, and then above this is all the mass combat stuff that we have, and having all these followers fight against each other to steal resources from neighboring communities. If I can take this city over, that's 36 new resources I have available to my war machine to then go attack Cormier, for instance. Like, I could bring the blood war to Toril with what was it? The recent all the evils of all the campaigns, defeat. Oh God, what was it? It's hold on, now it's really just bugging my brain. Let's go to Dungeon Masters Guild, and there it is. Thank you. Doom Forgotten Realms, by Matt Whitby. Matt's a great guy, by the way. Get into his circles. He's a fun guy. But this whole book is about, like, what if all the campaigns went horribly long and everything horrible happens? All the worst results happens, and so the blood wars are actively flooding across Toril. Well, this can become your campaign after, say, level 13 and Descent into Avernus. You can just pick this up and build it into the Baldur's Gate content that we've been working on here. Like, these things all fold together. So anyway, like, subscribe, check out my DM stuff. Everything I publish is 100% free. This will be 100% free for you to view. You can decide if you want to invest in this and more ideas like it moving on. Once all these things roll out, I can do endless works for you guys to play with me here on stream, for us just to build random organizations, for us to build random plot hooks. Some of it I can, if I think there's enough appeal, I can publish to DMsGuild. Other stuff I can just drop onto Patreon. Other stuff, I can just make things available to people as they want. But like, subscribe. check out my Patreon. This is where all this free content sits right now as it goes through playtesting. It will all be free on the DMs Guild, so check my DMs Guild link in the description so you can see how I follow through on letting you play before you buy. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to what's next. So be a part of it. Come along. And I'll see you guys. Not tomorrow because I have my my lunchtime adventure tomorrow. I'll be back on Thursday, probably doing more Eberron maps, adventure design. Saturday I've got 9th level Descent into Avernus, taking on a demon lord to try to amass demon soldiers to start creating that third prong to fight in the blood war. Hopefully everything plays out well, but I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to you. I hope you love what we're doing here, and drop me a comment. Say hey. Just let me know what's going on. I'll see you on the other side, guys. Bye.